Well, many folks have been asking about what it actually costs to live in the village, especially for folks who are returning from diaspora. Often, when I get this question, my answer is always that it's actually very affordable to live in the village. But the term affordable is quite relative. Depends on who you ask, where you're going to live, and so many other factors. So, in this video, I will walk you through a step by step breakdown of what you can expect to spend within a month living in the village, all things considered, especially if you're hoping to maintain a comparable lifestyle, one that is really similar to what you have in diaspora. It likely will not be exactly the same. Of course, you're not in diaspora, but if you're hoping to live a life that is fairly comparable to what you have in diaspora, I'm going to walk you through exactly what you can expect to spend in a month. I will also share a few plugs that I've come to learn about how you can even make life more affordable without compromising the quality of your lifestyle. Folks, welcome back to the village. As you can tell, we are back in Karateng, which is a village right in the middle of Kisumu, a town in western Kenya. And we are spending time, of course, with our supervisors, and that is my Swiss sister. She's a twin, and we are spending time hanging out, and we'll be dropping her off to the airport later on in the afternoon. So before we unpack all of this, I just want to say one thing, that I'm extremely, extremely grateful, and I'm excited to share the news that in just a few weeks, we've really grown as a channel. A few weeks ago, we only had about 300 subscribers to this channel. And in about 2 months or so, we are at 6,000 plus. And I could not be any more grateful for all of y'all who've subscribed and keep coming back to watch our channel. And so I still want to encourage you, for folks who are watching and not yet subscribed, only less than 10% of those who watch us end up subscribing. And so if only we could get about 20% or maybe about 15% of our subscribers, of people who watch us subscribing, we would easily be at 20K plus. So if you're watching this video, please check if you have subscribed. And I hope this video is worth your time and you will subscribe. But even if you don't, as I always say, I'm still really grateful that you're spending time with us. So anyway, there is no doubt that having a solid understanding of cost is critical to people's decisions about whether or not to move, or when they need to move back to the village. Folks always wonder whether they can really afford it, especially people who are on fixed income, those who are possibly retired, maybe single parents, and folks who have other financial commitments like loans, particularly student loans and things that may tie you up in other ways. And so these questions are important to be considered in context. And that is why today I'm going to present two scenarios. So hopefully folks can pick one that aligns most closely with their reality. And these are just exemplars. There are many potential scenarios out there, but I'm going to present you with two, and you'll see which one best fits your scenario. And so in scenario one, I'm going to call this family A. Assuming this is a family of 4 people, 2 adults, 2 kids, possibly both adults working. Kids have minimal needs, especially disability, illness, or other things that require finances. And then, of course, nothing really unusual happening within this family A. So what's unique about family A is that, for one, they don't have a house in the village. They don't have a personal car. They, of course, do not produce their own food. They likely operate from a major urban center when they're in Kenya. And because they're barely in Kenya, they have not developed networks that they need to thrive in the village. And chances are, this family has not developed means of making money while at home. And so traveling to Kenya often means spend from day one to the day last. And this is actually where my wife and I started. We would operate under these circumstances. So the reality for this family is that often they're going to have to rent a place when they come to Kenya, whether it's a B&B or some kind of arrangement, or they may have to live with family or friends. They're often on the road a lot. They commute because many of the folks I've seen rent a place within the urban center and drive back and forth between the urban center and the village to see their folks. And that also means they have to rent or borrow a car. They eat out a lot. And we likely pay more for almost everything because they don't have networks they can rely on. So in terms of costs, here's what they're looking at. Let's say family A lives in Kisumu. And Kisumu has quite a few options in terms of rentals, and people like places like Ciala Resort, Acacia, Imperial, and things like that. So if, for example, this family chooses to live in Acacia, that'll set them back around $200 a night. And that translates to about $6,000. Remember, we are making a calculation based on a monthly expense. So this is 1 month. So in a month, you're looking at $6,000 just on accommodation, which translates to about 770,000 Kenya shillings. Now, if they live with the relatives, that comes with its own set of problems, including less freedom and things like that. They'll probably be paying for airtime, and you're looking at 2 lines, about 6,000 shillings. Car rental can be very pricey, especially if you are going to rent an SUV. Remember, we're talking about a comparable lifestyle. And an SUV, you're looking at around 15,000 Kenyan shillings, which is about $117. In a month, you're looking at 450,000 shillings. For gas, you're looking at anything between 12,000 and 20,000. Eating out, roughly 50,000. Groceries, 40,000. And all of these costs don't include airfare, family costs, like when you're paying stuff for family or just giving money, insurance, entertainment, or other incidentals like tapes, illness, shopping, and things like that. So in total, you're looking at approximately 1.326 million Kenyan shillings, which is in the neighborhood of about $10,000 a month. If you ask me, I think that is a lot of money. For some people, that may not be much, but for me, $10,000 in the village or at home is a lot of money. So let's compare that to family B, which owns a home, possibly have solar systems, they have their own water, they produce their own food. Sometimes they eat out, of course we do that, and they've got good networks that help them pay for stuff at a more affordable cost. So here's what family B is looking at in terms of expenditure. Housing, because they're not paying for mortgage, they're not paying for rent, they'll probably be paying a caretaker, which is about anywhere between 7 and 20K. So roughly you're looking at about $200 a month. Utilities like internet, power, water. And again, you're paying for power not because you don't have power, but many of the times folks are still connected to the national grid. Same thing with water. So utilities all put together would be around maybe $40, roughly 5,000 shillings. And then for the phones, you're looking at another $45. Pets, because typically we have dogs, mostly you're buying pet food and maybe vaccination. You're looking at somewhere around $40 as well. And then there are maintenance costs, which are harder to estimate because it just depends on what's going on. Sometimes it could be something as simple as just changing light bulbs, or it could be something more extensive like redoing roofs and all that. So then the second cost is about food and groceries. Again, keeping in mind because of everything set up, they produce most of what they eat. And so you're looking at about 50,000 Kenya shillings, which is about $400. Gas, another maybe 15,000 a week, which translates to about 60,000 Kenya shillings, about $450. And then eating out, because you don't commute as much, you don't eat out as much too. So then you're looking at about maybe 50K or $400. And then again, just like in the first scenario, the second family tour does not include airfare, what you pay to get to Kenya, may not include any expenses related to family spending, because again, it's typical that we spend on family when we are home. Nothing really unusual about that. This also does not include any insurance cost, especially health insurance. because Kenya is one place where you do not want to be sick without insurance, just like in America. And by the way, if you didn't know, America is a terrible place to be sick without insurance, especially if you are employed. And then, of course, this cost does not include entertainment. Sometimes you have folks visiting, you've got family and all that. And of course, other incidentals that'll pop up here and there. So in this second scenario, you're looking at about $200,000 a month. No, 200,000 Kenya shillings a month, which translates to about $1,600. If you were to ask me again, $1,600 is relatively affordable for a lifestyle at home, especially one that is comparable to lifestyle in diaspora. So clearly you can tell the difference between family A and family B is almost $8,000. That definitely is not change. And if you can spare that much money, particularly for folks who are planning on living in Kenya for an extended period of time, the savings are massive. The main difference, though, is that in the second scenario, it takes quite a bit of upfront investment to be able to set this up. Because in the initial case, family A has not spent anything to set things up. But when you set things up, as in the second family, then you're looking at very affordable monthly cost. And it is possible that in this second scenario, the family has maybe side gigs here and there at home that helps them generate income while at home. Many folks who have not set things up often don't have that option. So you come home and from day one to day last, all you do is spending. But in the second scenario, like the example I shared in my previous video, like in our case, we have a farm where we sell vegetables, we produce eggs and things like that. So there's some gigs here and there that can help with making a little bit more money. And so with much lower spending and opportunities to make money, you end up with a scenario where your monthly expenses in the village are completely covered by the side gigs you do at home. So no doubt you can see how and why I say that life in the village, when you've set things up, can be really affordable. Now, what does this mean, for example, folks who retire on Social Security, if you're coming from the United States? People make all kinds of money on Social Security, but it's often not a whole lot of money. And so the folks in my circle have seen anywhere between $1,800 to about $4,800 a month. Of course, if you're making that money, the only way you can afford to maintain a comparable lifestyle is if you invested in setting up these things that I mentioned earlier at home, where you don't have to rent a car, you don't have to pay any mortgage or B&B, and then of course you produce your own food. With all that put together, anybody living on fixed income on Social Security should be able to maintain a very similar level of lifestyle when they move to it, even without some kind of a side gig. But certainly it helps to have a side gig in the village. Now, folks who are in different circumstances clearly would realize that this is not going to be possible. In part because I've seen so many folks who decide to move to the village later on in life at a time where your capacity to make money also can diminish. And so at that point, if you're trying to build a home, like buy land, build a home, set things up, it can be quite challenging. And this is the reason I say, even if you don't think you are ever going to move back to the village, you would rather have that option available and not need it later on, rather than realize later on in life that you need it and you didn't set up something in place for it. And so if at all possible, if you're a young person, especially young folks who are either still in school, just starting on life, start with the very basics. And I'll do a separate video to show you some of the basics that you can begin with, like just purchasing land. Many options are available out there that even allows you to pay land in bits. You don't have to have the entire money. There are things you can do over the years that can make this entire process less painful. And unfortunately, some of us had to learn the hard way. And keeping in mind that there's also a very big difference between spending that happens during festive seasons, like in December, versus spending that happens every other time within the year. And so don't use your budget for December as an accurate measure of what life really costs to live at home. Personally, I've been in Kenya in April, I've been in Kenya in May, I've been in Kenya in June, I've been in Kenya July, August, and December. And that is after I'd moved to the US. I've seen wild variations in terms of the financial pressures. And so holiday spending or holiday lifestyle should not define what you should expect on a typical year. And so if you plan on moving back to the village, I say, besides just preparation, try and go to Kenya at a times that is outside the festive season. Well, again, I hope this was informative enough. If it was, please remember to subscribe, and I will see you in the next. Thank you.